That was me. That's what you get for not doing audio checks.
Check, check. Okay, there we. Anyway, that's exactly what I was literally just saying. Was we didn't do an audio check, and it may not have screwed us, but I guess it did. So anyway, back to the good morning, everybody. Um, Shane Malone, Trail Dust, Bortagov, Ben Toombs, Robert Lonis, Granddad's Forge, Robert Whitney, what is up? Everybody's kind of filtering in. Like I said, we were running a little bit late. Did not have time to do audio checks. I was charging my earbuds, and it was like, I looked at the clock, and it's like, go, 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 go. So naturally, that's the day that my microphone decided to go, no, I don't recognize myself anymore. I don't feel like a microphone. Naturally. So, yeah. Um, how is everybody doing? How y'all? We were discussing some plans for something fun that we're gonna do, and I really, 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 really hope that Roy pops in today because I need to let him know that he needs to join the post-show meeting, which cannot go too long because I have something going on at noon. Anywho, diddly, what just? Anyway, so yeah, I do feel blurry. Um, but yeah, so on to the how was your week section.
Yeah, so my week was decent, I guess. Yeah, I only worked one. No, I worked 2 days this week. And I mean, like, hey, this is the time of year for me where that's just the way it is. We work 1 or 2 days a week. Fourth quarter in the oil field is always, and it's going to be slow probably till either the middle of January or middle of February. It's kind of hard to gauge sometimes. But yeah, so it's going to be like 1 or 2 days a week for the rest of the year. It's always like it always makes Christmas time really tough because it's like everybody's like, oh, what are you gonna, or what are you gonna get the kids for Christmas? I'm like, I'm gonna keep the electricity on. That's what I'm gonna do, because that sometimes is the extent of the ability, I mean, because leading up to Christmas, you got 2 months of just barely being able to pay the bills. So if you don't do your Christmas shopping in June, you're hosed. Um, but anyways, yeah, I'm not much on holidays anyways, so bah humbug. Um, yeah, I worked a couple days, and then I came home. This is of course the third weekend of the month, so this is my weekend off. And yeah, I came home and got my shop set up, unloaded a massive amount of uh, inch and 3/4 tubing, crane boom tubing, because 2 weeks ago we were putting a sub together and trying to get some cam locks to go together up at the top, and we were lifting with the crane on the bottom stack, and the crane was only pulling like 90, 92 or 95 somewhere in that area, and they were rated for like 96, 98. Well, the main chains broke, and when they broke, everything whips back, and the blocks hit the boom and put dents in. I mean, of course, the crane's out of service right there, so they had to come in and cut all the pieces out that had dents in them, or got hit by the chains, things like that. There's quite a bit, and so when I went to the scrap metal bin, I don't know, Thursday-ish, no, Tuesday-ish, I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of tubing. So I climbed in and loaded it all up, and there was also a battery operated cutoff wheel thingy in the scrap metal bin in the trash, and I was like, and I grabbed it and the switch wouldn't work, and I was like, well, it's obviously broken, so I'll take it home and take it apart and see if I can fix it, because I'm good at that kind of stuff. And so I literally just chunked it, like 20 feet through the air into the back of my truck. And of course, I still had the cutoff wheel on it. Of course, I broke the cutoff wheel when it hit, but I wasn't really worried about it because, I mean, it was, obviously a broken thing anyways. And anyways, I got home here, unloaded everything, and I pulled that little grinder out, and I took the busted wheel off of it, and I was like, all right, now how am I going to get this thing apart? And I go working on it, and I pushed on the switch, and whee, it just fired right up, and I was like, oh, hey, this thing still works. And then I'm looking at it, and the battery's still on it, and it says RDL on the battery, so it's, obviously somebody dropped it in the trash bin on accident or something. So when I get back, I'll give it back to the shop. But that was interesting, and also kind of disappointing because since it's not broken, I kind of feel like I should give it back. And then yesterday, I spent all day in the forge. I started out trying to build a steel rack for all of my steel, and the design iteration changed over and over and over again because I'm trying to go for simplicity, because I don't have a one of them template things for cutting the saddles on the pipes. So I got to kind of wing it and this, that, and the other. Anyways, so I went through about 3 different iteration changes before I actually started working on it, and I got 1/3 of it halfway done. And then I started on a little project that I'm doing with some other people, like a monthly blacksmith challenge thing. It's a really really neat kind of idea. It's a Viking lock, a Viking era lock, and when I was asked to participate, I looked at it and I was like, oh man, that is so outside my wheelhouse. I mean, it's like, okay, I can try it, but I mean, and I've for a month or thereabouts been like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Well, yesterday I spent all day doing it, and the worst part is, I only came home, because this is home, not work. I wore my Skechers home, and they're just like plastic mesh, whatever. Well, you can't forge in those because the scale melts right through. I mean, it doesn't even slow down. Like a piece of scale lands on top of it, it's gonna hit your foot because it's gonna melt through the shoe and the sock before that little piece of scale cools off. I have a pair of Skechers that have holes all in the top from forging in them, and I just bought these ones a few months ago, so I'm not doing that. So the only thing I have here that's not mesh or my little moccasin things, which are my house shoes, the only thing I have are the boots that I wore on the airplane to go down to visit Yamez. And yeah, they've got like a rather tall heel on them. And so I got to stand around the shop all day in that, and whew, boy, that sucked. But anyways, I got the lock done, and I'm going to show you. Okay. I have to put the microphone down to do this. Wait, where's the rest of it? There it is. All right. So this is the lock body right here.
You gotta hold it in front of your face because otherwise it's picking up on the.
Okay, well, you can see it, right?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me just turn the background off real quick. That way, it's not doing that, and I'm not having to deal with it.
Ready for the blinding light.
Change. All right. So here's the lock body, and you see how it works that way. And I did not use a welder for this. This is all done with fuse welding because I love doing that. It's fun. Here is the shackle, and it just kind of goes in there like. And then here's the key, and this one is it's thin on one side and thick on the other, so it's like a wedge. And my idea was you stick it in, and then you slide it up and you turn it, right, to unlock it. It doesn't quite work that well, but does actually work. And so I was actually pretty impressed with myself. Now, the hardest part about this whole thing, I made the key out of stainless. This is all of this is crane boom. The side piece, top and bottom plate, the body, all of this is pieces of the crane boom. And this is a piece of 1/4-inch coil spring. And I had to build this 4 times. 4 times because I kept breaking these off. And it's just like, and okay, well, I'll just straighten it out and shorten it up, and so I used 1 full coil to build the first 3, and I had to get another coil to build this one. And I just kept, it was like, it would either, I would put the key in and use it, and it would just stay smushed. And so it was like a one-time use lock because it wouldn't relatch after that, or I would put the key in to unlock it and it would just snap the thing off. And I'm just like, and every time it snapped off, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And well, one of the times it smushed flat, I pulled it out, and then when I went to spread it back out, it broke off. Well, yeah, that was a real pain in the butt. But anyways, yeah. So a Viking padlock, that was pretty cool. I didn't think I was gonna be able to get it done, but I got it, and do a little short about it or whatever later on today, I think. So that was my week because that's the last thing I did last night before I sat down and I watched about 3 episodes of Stargate on Pluto TV, and then went, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I should probably go to bed. So that wraps me up. Yamez, how was your week? Did you get anything done?
Yeah. And no, and yeah, and then again no. Let me see. Pushed real far on this job that we've got, and I think I've got it narrowed down to I got 2 days left on this job site. Made real buddy with the contractor and the crew, so they're talking about doing about 3 of these house flips a year. And in which, that's, they're like, all right, we're using you guys as our electrician from here on out. We're not messing with anybody else. Y'all are doing great. And so it's like, we're like exclusive electricians for a house flipping company now. Yay. Let's just hope that all the jobs are as clean and smooth as this one is going. Cleaner and smoother. Anyway, with that, then I also, I've been doing work around the house here. I cleared out my breezeway or wind tunnel, whichever one you want to call it. The area of the house that is between my house and the main house it's under a roof and basically has it's a screened-in porch, and it becomes a catch-all for everything. It's like we had it loaded with ladders, sheets of plywood, freaking empty propane tanks, my, compound radial saw or compound radial arm saw, all sorts of manner of whatever you want to drop and store, it's in there. And we're doing Thanksgiving at our place this year, so I had to clean everything up. I just realized I'm pretty quiet because I moved the mic way over here. So yeah, had to move everything out to the garage, and I've already got the cabinets and the generators, in the way, and now I've got a bush cart full of stuff in the way, and more sheets of plywood, more ladders, more stuff than I know what to do with, all up in the way. And I've got some more stuff I got to put in there throughout this week. So frickin' yay. I fixed a table, one of my folding tables. I fixed it so that we could bring that in because we're going to have about 15 people at the house for Thanksgiving, and we've got a table that seats 3. So, yeah, we actually ordered some folding chairs to have, and yeah, so it's we're going to set up. Some people are going to be in the breezeway. Some people are going to be in the living room. Some people are going to be in the kitchen, and some people are going to be on the porch. And yeah, so then there's that. I've got, it's like, so as you guys have known, I've been running, lead on this project or working on this project for a gaming community, for a gaming company, in crypto. And I think, okay, so for the past 2 weeks, my shoulder and arm and hand have been just messing with me. I have no feeling in this, half of my hand. And like yesterday or Friday, I was cutting wire and I had pain just shoot up my forearm. And it's like, I think I'm getting carpal tunnel from, work. I get off work and then I come here and I'm working on a computer and I'm leaning forward and I'm typing. I've got a very piss poor computer setup. I need to build myself a desk and, get myself an actual office chair, somewhere where I can actually sit and properly work instead of leaning forward, shoulder down on the knee, to use the mouse and then reaching over, no support it's just a nightmare. But suffice it to say, it's like my right arm is just going to shit. So, yeah, that's something that's going to be coming up. I've got to rearrange my room and build an office desk. Why are you laughing at me? Why is everybody laughing at me? Oh, Yama's it's in the chat. Yeah, put me at the kids' table. Exactly. Yeah, I think
because I did a you said your right arm was going to shit and I gave a hand motion and kind of was like, I bet.
Yeah, it's been a while. It hurts too much. Oh, and I'm not ambidextrous. Anyway, what was the freaking go back to the couch cushions like I was 13 again. Anyway.
Over. Holy shit.
Oh, they just ruined the show. I can't. Okay. I forgot what I was saying now. It's gonna be 10 minutes of us just laughing. I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay, hang on. We have a topic. The topic is not couch cushions. Stop it. All right. Stop it, chat. Okay. And focus. Focus. All right, so kids table, yeah. Going from couch cushions to the kids table. Okay. Okay. So yeah, the funny thing is, it's like I have always been at the kids table. It's like when I stopped being at the kids table is when I stopped going to family Thanksgivings. Like when I moved out and moved down to the Keys and basically like. I ain't gonna sit with the rest of the family at Thanksgiving. So it's like this may be the first year that I'm not at the kids' table. No, last year I wasn't at the kids' table. Because last year there wasn't a kids' table, but there were kids at the table that I was sitting at. Does that make it the kids' table? Does that mean we're all at the kids' table? It's just not fair. I'm 40 years old. I should not be at the kids' table anymore. I demand not to be at the kids' table. I'm an adult. But yes, all right. Also, the other how was your week part. So yeah, I would like to gather for the post show meeting. I would like to gather Jack Pines and Roy. Oh, you've got two mics.
Yeah, I'm double fisting it now.
There you are. But absolutely, Ben, the family up in Illinois would bully me. Absolutely, 100%, and not meant as a joke. But there's a reason I am where I am, and there's a reason that I am a lot happier now that I'm down here. So that's all I'll say about that publicly. But yeah, so I'm so lost. I am so lost.
What?
Uh-oh. Alexis broke her glasses. Big, expensive designer glasses. This is why I have cheap things. If anything I break, it's like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's like I get one expensive pair of glasses a year, and then the rest are just like cheap ones I get from online. And so the ones that I get when I get my eye exam are like $1,000, not out of pocket. I've got insurance, but and then I go online and I get them from like Yes Glasses, or I buy direct for like $20.
Yeah,
no, I was just looking up and it looked like I stunned them and cracked because the lines run across both sides, and it turns out somehow I just got like, it was weird. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
Anyway, yeah, it's all right. My train of thought derails so many times. It's like hijack it all you want, because then I'll come up with another train of thought, and it's like a freaking Grand Central Junction over here. You just broke up a little bit.
Were you discussing getting Roy and Jack in for the post show?
Yes, yes. If I can get word to Roy for the post show meeting, and Jack, I need to go over some stuff with you right quick as well. I wish Adam were here, but alas, he is not. So we'll have to arrange that part of it on the side. So that being said, business stuff out the way. El Dorado. No segue needed. All that glitters is gold. The story of El Dorado, and I will preface this with, why I consider this part of our metalworking deep dives into history is, we've talked about all the different metals and how they've helped shape humanity, not just the nations, but humanity itself. And, throughout history, you have humankind has this affinity for this soft, gold metal, this soft, yellowish metal. And there are stories throughout history, different ages. I mean, you've got the gold rush, which populated California, which is a barren wasteland of uselessness. My opinion. But then you've got stories out of the whole Atlantis thing, people searching for Atlantis, for the treasures of Atlantis. You got stories in every continent about some golden city, some giant treasure trove of wealth, and it's this mankind's just affinity for this yellow metal. And then possibly the most famous myth throughout history would be El Dorado. And since we've been talking about the Incas, the Mayans, and South America, did you catch it? Did you catch the fly?
I did.
But you have the gigantic mythos surrounding the golden city of El Dorado, and we kind of wanted to discuss that. And in previous shows, like I have shown proof that the legend of Atlantis can be considered rooted in fact, that there may in fact have been the actual city of Atlantis somewhere. And I researched my butt off, and I mean, seriously, it's gone. My butt is gone. I researched it so hard off. to try and find any nugget of truth and any nugget of, you know, a possible set location for where the legend of El Dorado may be. And here is an interesting part of the history surrounding that myth. I truly have found that it may be that the story of El Dorado is exactly that, a story meant to tweak the psyche of human beings to get them to do what others want, or to, you know, play with that psychology to get them to not mess with you, or things like that. You know, it's like, because there are, in my research and talking with Alexis and everything, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different stories of the location or the origin, or, you know, what El Dorado actually is. And it ties in with so many different myths, so many different legends, you know, from so many different areas. You know, first it's definitely here, and then it's definitely here, and then it's definitely there, you know. And what I have found is, back in the 1530s, the nugget of truth of El Dorado stems from what my research is. And this is, you know, again, keep in mind, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of stories of the truth about El Dorado. You know, what I have found is El Dorado translates to the Gilded Man. And back in the 1530s, there was a Musica tribe, and their tradition was that, yes?
Raft behind me, that's the Musica raft.
Yeah, yeah. There was the Musica tribe back in the 1530s, and they had I believe, an annual tradition slash ceremony for their king to cover himself in oil and then gold dust, and then dive into a lake, and thus started the rumor of the Gilded Man. You know, other tribes would talk about it. Conquistadors heard about it, about a man made of gold diving into a lake. And, you know, it spread around that, like, everything was made of gold, or everything had, you know, gold was everywhere and so plentiful. And that started that, like, you know, that human greed, that search for the gold to pay for, you know, all these expeditions. And I truly feel, because those rumors spread back to Spain and to Germany and to England and to kind of everywhere, that there was this, you know, land of gold, the city of gold. And over time, that, you know, El Dorado became, from the Gilded Man, to the name of a lost city. And I feel that they had used that myth, used that legend, to enlist sailors and enlist, you know, laborers to bring over to the New World, and to bring over to the South Americas, for conquest. And it's like, the only real good thing that came out of it is, you know, all the tribes were, you know, with all the tribes being, you know, tortured for, like, information, you know, eventually just started sending people on wild goose chases. And the only good that came of all of that is specifically the quest for El Dorado has, you know, contributed to 90% of the mapping of, you know, the Amazon basin and you know, the surrounding area, like the north half of South America, you know, according to my sources. You know, like, you know, again, I am not the paleontologist, archaeologist that Adam is, but according to my sources, and the pages that I've read and researched. So yeah, you know, one such story that may have contributed to the mythos of El Dorado is, I believe Alex brought it up to me this morning, and it's the, you know, the seven cities. And if you want to take it away there, so that I'm not the only one talking.
Sure. No. Definitely a very important variation of the El Dorado. Well, okay, so there's a little town that's over here next to me called El Dorado, spelled the same way, El Dorado. The part of the mythos on that was one of the seven cities of Cibola, or seven cities of gold. It goes both ways. Could have been El Dorado or El Dorado. Sorry, it's just there's a distinct difference in pronunciation for the city that's right down the road a bit, and it's hard because I do say that one on a regular basis. It's hard to El Dorado, but y'all know what I mean. Anyways, um, so a big contributor to this or similarity maybe would be the seven cities of gold, the seven cities of Cibola, and those originate from the Aztec Indians who occupied the city of Teotihuacan, which is located in current day Mexico City. That was the capital of the Aztec Empire. Um, Now, when the Spaniards came over, they're basically just rounding up all the gold they can find, and killing the people that have it. Because I mean, like, why do I need to negotiate with you for that when I can just stab you and take it? I mean, it wasn't all like that, but I mean, it was pretty brutal. And anyways, so the Indians at the time, or the Aztecs, they were just of the mindset of it's like, hey, let's just tell them about these seven cities, richest that are to the northwest, and maybe they'll go away looking for that. Now there is some truth to the seven cities there, because the seven cities to which they are referring were the large pueblo cities of the southwest, the southwest United States. So these would be the Chaco ruins, the Aztec ruins, not Aztec Mexico, but Aztec New Mexico, the Mesa Verde ruins, and there are several other large city encampments that were, these cities held thousands of people, and they had very intricate farming and irrigation, and I mean, so by native standards at the time, these were a wealthy people, because they weren't hungry. You know what I mean? They weren't needing for anything. They provided for themselves, and they provided. They grew enough food to provide for themselves year round, and not just it's not just one person growing their own maize. It's them growing fields of it, and having big storerooms, like grain storage rooms, where they stored it all year, to get through the winters and stuff. And so these cities, they were considered very wealthy people at the time, and so they were the seven cities of riches. And that kind of, in translation, because riches means different things to different peoples, they basically got translated to the Spaniards as the seven cities of gold. And it's, I mean, it's all just a matter of perspective, right? Because gold had no, like, to the
Natives.
indigenous people. Yeah. I'm trying to find the correct word. To the indigenous people of the time, gold really had no monetary value. It was pretty, and you could make cool stuff out of it, but other than that, it was fairly useless, right? And so it wasn't considered riches to the indigenous people. It was to the Spaniards. So the Spaniards trek off, headed northwest, looking for the seven cities of Cibola, and they do come across the indigenous people of that area, the Pueblo of that time. And they also found, basically that was the source of gold coming down through the southern end of North America, because the lower Colorado, upper New Mexico, the Rockies in that region were just littered with placer and lode deposits, and the Spanish extensively mined that area for several hundred years. And to this day, I mean, the evidence of that mining is still there. You can still find areas where they had smelters running, or basically ore refineries, where they would crush the ore, roast the ore, extract the dory, which is the mixture of gold, copper, zinc, tin, all of the metals melted together into a bar. It's called the dory bar. And they tended to be about 40% gold back then. And but even now, I mean, in the Four Corners region, there's this from the Rocky Mountains. There, you come down and you get to Largo Canyon. The mouth of Largo Canyon is the basically it's the Spanish Trail. You can follow that canyon all the way to the Rio Grande, and the Rio Grande all the way to the Gulf of Mexico to get on your ship and go back to Spain. See, and so there it was just this. It was the route,
Pipeline.
you know what I mean? And Largo, yeah, and you always had water. You were with water all, from San Juan County, New Mexico, which is right up in the corner. From there all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, you've got water the whole trip. And the so in that area, going to Largo Canyon, you can find Spanish trail markers everywhere. I mean, they are everywhere. And if you can read them right, you can get from one marker to the next and to the next and to the next. And some of these trail markers are starting at Largo and going out to where a cache of gold would have been buried. And some of it is markers so that they can find their way back, from wherever they're mining at, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and I've followed lots of these, and I've dug lots of holes, and I've never found anything of significance. I know people that have found dory bars by following the Spanish markings and whatnot. I've been part of an expedition where we got a hit at 22 feet down and heavier than 10 pounds. Don't know what it is. Never got to dig it up. 22 feet's a big freaking hole, and that's not something you're going to dig overnight with a shovel. And so, anyway, yeah, well, Yamez could do it, and he is a digging fool, but me not so much. But anyways, so what started out for the Spaniards as looking for the seven cities of Cibola turned into a very, very extensive mining operation in the Rocky Mountains that spanned 200 to 300 years, from the early 1500s to the 1700s. And I mean, they didn't necessarily find the cities of gold, but they found the source of it. And and if you play your cards right, I mean, and you're in the right area and the right place at the right time, you might find some of what they found. I know one guy, a friend of mine back in the day, Nick Fleming. He followed trail markers and legends and whatever, and he was looking for the treasure of Tesoro del Alma, and he found it. And it was a stack of dory bars, 4 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and 60 feet long. And he found it, and then he filed for a permit to remove a treasure trove with the Bureau of Land Management, and they said no. And then he fought them for 20 years to get that permit, and then finally got it. And I've spoken. I mean, this is a long time ago, probably 10 years ago when he got the permit. And I spoke to Nick on a regular basis, and Nick even offered to bring me and my treasure hunting and mining buddy down to visit the site with him. He wouldn't let us in, but he was going to let us come see the site and all that. And it never just really materialized because me and Wally really never had the time. But yeah, literally the day after Nick got his treasure trove permit issued, none of us ever heard from him since. I mean, he's still out there, and he dug, he got it all removed, but hasn't talked to anybody he talked to before since. He just kind of, he went and got a backhoe and got his like $7 billion worth of gold bars, and it's like too good for the rest of you screwheads. So
that sounds kind of like my future if I hit it big on crypto. I'll disappear.
The reason that stack of gold bars was there is because there was this rogue Spaniard on the route from the La Platas down to the Gulf of Mexico, and this is right around Tshirts, New Mexico, which is where Elephant Butte Lake is now, which lies along the Rio Grande. And he would hide out there, and he would hijack the Spaniards that were on their way back to the coast, and he would take their gold, and he was like, just stashing it in this cave. And yeah, he amassed quite a treasure before he wound up getting killed in one of his raid attempts. And yeah, Nick was the guy that found where he was storing it at. So it turns out it wasn't just a legend; it was actually happening. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I have on El Dorado and the 7 cities of Cibola.
And so you hear the stories like that, like specifically like that. Not only the guy that was, hoarding the gold, but also your buddy that found the gold and spent 20 years trying to make it his, essentially, to have access to it. And you see what I was talking about in the beginning, that psychological pull to this seemingly useless shiny metal that everybody gives excuses of why it's so valuable.
Well, see, and therein lies the a kind of obvious crookedness to the U.S. government. I mean, because okay, they weren't the government didn't win on this one because Nick had millions of dollars because he was a retired real estate investor that turned treasure hunter. He had time and he had money, so he had lawyers, and he was able to afford to fight the government for 20 years. Most people can't afford to do that, you know what I mean? And so eventually they give up, because the thing is, when you find a treasure trove, before you touch it, you have to file a permit to remove. And if you file a permit to remove a treasure trove, you get half and the BLM gets half. You got to split it 50-50. Now, if you don't file for a permit to remove and you remove it, well, I mean, okay, now you got to move it without getting caught, because if they catch you removing it or they catch you with it and you didn't have a permit, the government gets all of it. So you get half if you file the permit, and you get none if you get caught. Anyways, so they were basically the government was stalling, basically thinking that eventually he's going to give up or he's going to die, and then we'll just go in and the BLM will remove it, and then they'll just add it to the coffers of the U.S. Treasury. No big deal, right? And well, and judge after judge after judge laid down an order and said the Office of the Bureau of Land Management has to issue this permit. And then repeatedly, everybody at the Office of the BLM just said, nope. What are you going to do? Put the BLM in jail? It's an entity, not a person. And so it was I don't know, it was a whole thing until finally the right person was in office that just went, why are we doing this? And just, and so, yeah, but the links that the government was going to, I mean, and it's not just, I mean, and there was some shady shit going on, like attempts on his life and stuff like that. I mean, like, there was some shady shit going on. The links that the government would go to acquire that $7 billion stack of bars is insane. And anybody and other people too. I mean, like, there were people with claims next door that were trying to tunnel over and get to it. I mean, it's freaking crazy. Gold will make you do weird things.
That's when you just start driving, plates in around it so that nobody can tunnel to it. Graboid plates.
The only reason members got caught because the security guards felt them blasting underground.
Yeah. But yeah, and that goes more to the point of, this, bringing it to metal and how it's important to, the building of human, civilization. It's like a lot, and this is going to be a hot take on it. This is going to be a weird take, but that psychotic drive for this shiny metal has driven mankind to do some outrageous things for progress. Violent, deadly, psychotic, but things that, some of the things that we have now are because, the forefathers of humanity have done crazy things to push us forward, like that drive. Bring back the gold rush to California and everything. which, made California this, massively rich state back then. And, it's like all the big money was over there in San Francisco area, back in, when was the gold rush? 1700s?
1849 and 1878. 49 was California. I think 78 was the Yukon.
Okay. So, it's like it brought all these people, and, like when you, there's multiple ways, it's like all these people just, it's like, I'm going to go get my share. I'm going to go get my share. And it built all this wealth over there. And it's like, ultimately you look at, as history and as civilizations progress, where wealth gathers, you have a society building. And for good or for bad, that's how humanity progresses. It's like it led ultimately to the modern times. You have Hollywood, you have the Silicon Valley, and love it or hate it, they are market movers in our country. They are a deciding factor in the direction of our country. All because of back in the gold rush, that insane, I've got to get some, like of this, I've got to, that greed, and all of that, and every major thing, major wealth rush throughout human history has been because of this shiny, soft, fairly useless metal. I know now that gold is extremely, useful in like circuitry and wiring and conductivity and all that stuff. But they didn't know that back then. It was literally just something that somebody else would buy. Like that's all it was back then, was a measure of wealth. Had no practical use, So
Nope, it was pretty.
yeah. And so it's like that's how I justified tying in El Dorado and some of these gold rush scenarios into a show about metal, because it showed like nobody did that for iron, and I think iron is hella more useful than gold. There was no iron rush, and I gotta get me that bar of iron. Nobody was like hijacking, conquistadors on the side of the freaking river and stealing their iron bars and burying it underground. It's that warped view of what's valuable, and it all comes down to metal.
Yeah, that is interesting. That and why gold? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, okay, I understand it's pretty, it's shiny, and
It doesn't
it's heavy.
tarnish.
It doesn't tarnish, but I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the fact that it's like one of the only metals that doesn't tarnish. I mean, the other ones are like iridium and stuff that you wouldn't really find in their native form. But yeah, it's interesting that gold was the metal that drove basically all. I mean, it was the basis of the driving of human innovation for half a millennia.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? I mean, yeah, now it's useful for all kinds of stuff, but back then it was just decorative, and I don't know. I mean, I could have the same argument about diamonds. It's like they're freaking everywhere. They're very common. It's the fourth most common. The crystalline form of the fourth most common element in the universe, but they're artificially worth a lot of money, and it's retarded. I'm sorry. It's stupid. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
They weren't looking for that in El Dorado, though.
Yeah, it's exactly. As you just got to go far enough back in time when the first two-legged how to get iron from ore and made swords out of it. Yeah, I mean, it's metal, and the search for it drove. I mean, then of course you have the stories of like Helen of Troy, where a woman is the cause of strife. But I mean, I'm not. That hasn't. I can't spin Helen of Troy with metal. So whatever. But yeah, it's and that's kind of the presentation that we have for today is tying in that we've talked a lot about gold being decorative for pre-Columbian, pre-colonial times and in that era, and this is kind of the tie-in show to explain why that is such an important perceived important metal, why it was such a driver for what we have now and what we have moving forward. So yeah, that's kind of all I got on that.
Right, I want to touch on a couple things. Jurgen was mentioning that there was a time when iron had a higher value than gold, and that is true. It did have a higher value, but it was not as sought after. Like we did touch on this before. I mean, in the time of the Egyptian, old kingdoms, the meteorite dagger that the iron meteorite dagger that Tutankhamun was buried with at the time was the most valuable thing in his funerary chamber by far. I mean, iron back then was so rare. I mean, it was the only known source of it was meteoric iron, and so it was very, very valuable. And then somebody else said something about aluminum. Who was that? Eric said that there was a time when aluminum had a higher value than gold, and that is correct. When the Washington Monument was built, the tip of it was a 3-pound pyramid of aluminum. And at the time of its casting, that was the single largest piece of aluminum on Earth. And aluminum was worth more than gold at the time. That's why they topped it with aluminum, because it was worth more than gold. The process for refining it had yet to be really developed, effective, and so and so it wasn't cheap and easy to come by back then. It was very, very difficult and very, very rare because aluminum does not typically exist in its natural state. So it is very energy intensive to extract it, or it was then.
Yeah.
So and of all of the metals that have been discovered since the metals that were or the elements that were known to ancient in ancient times, like there are certain things that we've known about for so long that we don't know when they were discovered. It's prehistory. But the things that have been discovered since then, at any given time, especially when something is new and it has a very useful purpose or whatever, it can be quite valuable and more valuable than gold. I mean, like even today, look at things like palladium, iridium, rhodium. I mean, those are all to some degree sometimes platinum. I don't think platinum so much anymore, but I know the platinum group metals are all way more expensive than gold. And I think they'll remain to be that way because in the ore they're only like 2% of the ore, and then even then you got to try to separate the 3 or 4 of them from each other, which in itself is very difficult and energy intensive. So, and then when you get off the expensive radionucleotides, which are also they are metals, extremely heavy metals. Then you're talking about like the stuff that they engineer for chemotherapy, where you're paying $300,000 for an ounce and a half of this stuff you're going to drink, and then it's going to kill your cancer cells. So I mean, like those are expensive metals because they have to make them in a particle accelerator. And you would not believe how much electricity it takes to run one of those things. Yeah, there you go, Jurgen. Bauxite ore. That's where it came from. Aluminum.
All right. Yeah. So I mean,
like I said, with that, Alexis will always find a way to bring in isotopes.
Yeah, well, it's been a while. You know that?
Ask me about my isotopes. I need to watch that movie again. That was a
Well, now that
fun
you ask, I mean, I can no.
movie. So with that, I kind of wanted to explain that tie-in to metals, which ties into blacksmithing. Like this whole deep dive, and we are nearing the end of our era's deep dive season. So like this kind of all ties it together to where metal, whether it's smithed or just the fact that it's a metal, ties into blacksmithing and human the push for human ingenuity. And as we all know, all of us, every single one of us here knows that blacksmiths are the true geniuses of humanity, and nobody can take that title away from us. If you are a blacksmith, you are a genius, full stop. And then there's bladesmiths. Uh, but yeah, so that pushes, I guess, for today's show, pushes us to our final thoughts. And I kind of just said mine, like where the tie-in to everything. So yeah, I guess, Alexis, your final thoughts.
Sure. Okay. So I actually had this one planned out. My final thoughts are, it's very easy to fall into our comfort zone. I do this, I do this way, whatever. I think it's actually a little bit more productive and maybe a little bit more exciting if you challenge yourself. Step outside your comfort zone. Like when I made this Viking lock, I'm just like, I spent a couple of weeks going, I don't think I can do this. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And then I made the determination on Friday. It's like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to do this one way or another. And what did I just sat here and just put it together. I mean, you know what I mean? I just winged it. And I challenged myself to come up with a solution to a problem. The problem is I got to figure out how to make this, but I don't know how to make it. And the solution is, well, let's just hammer on this and see what happens. Anyways, the point being, challenging yourself enhances your creativity. And I personally, I find it very satisfying to even challenging myself and failing. I still find it's kind of exhilarating. It's like, man, it really sucks that didn't work out, but I almost had it. And so that's my thought for the week. It's see if you can find a way to challenge yourself. Step outside your comfort zone. Go a little further than you usually go. Give a little extra than you usually give, effort-wise or whatever. You know what I mean? And so, in almost any situation, that challenge is good for ourselves, both physically and mentally, and emotionally, for that matter. So get out there and figure out what you want to do, and then take it up a notch. So I will see you guys next week.
Yep. And as usual, I just would like to thank every single person that is part of this show, whether it be whether you're watching it, listening to it on the podcast, the moderators in the chat that keep all the prostabots away, and huge thank you to my co-hosts, Alexis here every week with me, and then Adam here every other week with us. And speaking of Adam, let's hear from him for a little bit. I know you guys are only here to hear the Australian accent. That's it. That's the only reason anybody listens. So, 60 seconds of silence from us and let him have the floor.
Just say, thank you very much for listening, guys. You can find Yames on Island Metal Forge on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Alex at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, you can leave them under the hashtag Metal of the Week in the YouTube community chat in Discord, or you can email us at impracticalblacksmiths@gmail.com. If you found us on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Amazon Music, Audible, or Google Podcasts. We upload generally every Wednesday, or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's currently 12:30 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time on Monday morning. However, you should check that against your local time, and that's located at the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thanks for joining us, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, or give us a star rating if you found us on one of the podcasts, and we appreciate your support. Now,
Thank you, Adam. I hope you're having a good day at work. And with that, everybody, y'all take care. Jack is live next at noon, and that is noon Eastern. So whatever time zone you're in. You guys all have a wonderful day, and I hope to be on later, but I highly doubt it. I've actually packed more stuff in the way of getting out to the shop. That plus my arm being off, I'm making excuses. Anyway, till next time, guys, you all have a wonderful day. Adios.